phone rang at 3:17 in the morning, and his sister's name lit up the screen. The problem is, his sister had died 8 months ago. Danny sat up in bed, staring at the glowing screen, and his brain refused to process what he was seeing. Not unknown number, not blocked. Her actual name, Anna, and her old number, the one he deleted from his contacts because seeing it on the list hurt too much. The call kept ringing. He counted the rings as if that could change anything. 3, 4, 5. On the 6th, he picked up. Not because he was brave, he just couldn't make himself do anything else. His hand lifted the phone to his ear on its own. "Hello?" he said, and his voice was shaking. At first there was silence, not complete silence. Background noise, like the call was coming from outside, wind, the distant hum of traffic. Then a voice spoke. Her voice. The same voice, the same intonation, the same slight rasp she got whenever she was tired. "Danny," she said, "I'm cold. Come get me." He couldn't describe what he felt in that moment. It wasn't just fear. It was the sensation of the floor disappearing beneath him. Like the entire reality he'd been living in for the past 8 months. The funeral, the grave, the urn of ashes on the shelf at his parents' house had suddenly turned out to be wrong, false, a mistake. "Anna," he whispered, "this isn't funny. Who is this?" "Danny, please." The voice grew quieter, as if she were pulling away from the phone, or the phone was pulling away from her. "It's dark here. I don't know where I am. Come get me." The call cut off. Danny sat there frozen for probably 5 minutes. Then, with shaking hands, he called the number back. It rang for a long time, once, twice, 10 times, before a robotic female voice informed him the number was no longer in service. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, he told his girlfriend Claire about it. She looked at him with the expression people give someone going through prolonged grief. Pity mixed with quiet worry. "Danny, that was probably just a nightmare," she said. "Or someone hijacked your sister's old SIM card and is playing a sick joke. It happens. Scammers recycle numbers from people who've passed." The logic held up. He almost believed it. Almost. But the next night the phone rang again, exactly at 3:17. This time he didn't pick up right away. He stared at the screen, at her name, and felt cold sweat run down his back. The call rang and rang and rang. The rings didn't stop, as if whoever was calling knew he could see the screen and was willing to wait as long as it took. On the 15th ring, he couldn't take it anymore. "Who are you?" he said, and there was no politeness left in his voice, only anger tangled up with terror. "Danny, why didn't you come?" The voice sounded like it was crying. "I told you where I was. Didn't you understand?" "You didn't tell me anything," he nearly screamed. "Who the hell are you?" A pause. And then, the thing that made his legs give out from under him. "You don't remember our conversation?" she asked quietly. "Danny, I told you about the basement, about Grandma's old house. You promised you'd come." He went cold, because that conversation never happened. He remembered it clearly. The only thing she'd said in the first call was, "It's dark here, and come get me." Nothing about a basement. Nothing about Grandma's house. Unless she'd said it to someone else. Or he genuinely didn't remember something he should have. He hung up, unable to take any more, and stayed awake the rest of the night, sitting in the kitchen with every light on like a scared kid. By morning, he'd decided he needed to look into this himself, because either he was losing his mind or something was happening that he couldn't explain. and either way, doing nothing felt like the worst option. Grandma's house was real. Anna had grown up there, an old wooden house out in a village about 2 hours from the city. Since their grandmother died almost 5 years ago, the house had sat empty. Nobody in the family could bring themselves to sell it or tear it down. Anna used to drive out there alone sometimes. To think, she'd say. Danny had always found it a little strange, but never thought much of it. He took the day off work and drove out there that same afternoon. The drive took almost 3 hours because of traffic and road construction. By the time he pulled up to the house, it was already dusk. The sky heavy and gray, a light rain falling. The house looked exactly as he remembered it. A leaning fence, an overgrown garden, dark windows, behind which no one had lived in years. He walked around the outside first, hesitant to go in right away. The door was locked with a padlock, old, rusted, but intact. That meant no one had broken in. It should have reassured him. Somehow it only made the dread worse. The key to the padlock was with his parents, but he didn't call them. He didn't want to explain why he needed to drive out here alone in the rain at dusk. Instead, he circled the house and found a window on the ground floor that, as he remembered from childhood, never latched properly. It gave after a few tries. Inside it was dark and smelled of damp, dust, something stale. He turned on his phone's flashlight and moved slowly through the rooms. The furniture stood exactly where it always had, draped in sheets, as if the house had been preserved, waiting for its owners to come back any moment. The basement door was in the kitchen, behind an old cabinet. He remembered it from childhood. As kids, he and Anna used to be scared to go down there, inventing stories about something terrible living below. Ordinary childhood nonsense. Back then, the door wasn't locked. He stood in front of that black mouth of a staircase leading down, and every part of him screamed to turn around and leave. But he remembered her voice. "It's dark here. Come get me," and forced himself down the steps. The stairs creaked under his feet. The flashlight beam caught pieces of the space. Old jars covered in dust and cobwebs, rusted tools, broken furniture. An ordinary country basement, exactly as it should have been. Then the beam swept across the far corner, and he saw something that made him freeze in place. On the floor lay an old phone. A flip phone, the kind you barely see anymore, its screen cracked. The exact phone Anna had used back in school before she switched to a smartphone. He recognized it instantly. On the back panel was a small, faded sticker of a cat, the one she'd stuck on herself as a teenager. He stepped closer, his hands shaking as he picked it up off the floor. It was cold. Not just basement cold, but unnaturally bone-deep cold, as if it had been sitting not for 5 years, but far longer, in a freezer somewhere. He pressed the power button, not really expecting a spark of battery left. The screen flickered and lit up. One new message was waiting on the screen, sent that same night at 3:17. The message was a single line. "You came after all. Now I'm not alone." He didn't remember dropping the phone. He didn't remember running up the stairs, climbing back out through the window he'd come in through, sprinting across the yard to his car in the freezing rain. All he remembered was glancing back as he ran and seeing a light in one of the upstairs windows, the exact window that had been Anna's childhood room. The light flickered once, then went out. He drove back to the city on autopilot, barely remembering the road. He couldn't bring himself to sleep at home that night. He checked into the first motel he found and stayed awake until morning, flinching at every sound. He left Anna's phone down there in the basement. He couldn't make himself bring it with him. Almost 2 months have passed since that day. The calls stopped. No unfamiliar number has shown up on his screen at 3:17 since. He convinced himself it had all been some kind of breakdown brought on by grief he hadn't fully processed, that the phone in the basement was just a coincidence, an old thing someone had forgotten down there years before any of this. But last night at exactly 3:17, Danny's phone rang again. This time the number was unfamiliar. He didn't want to answer. He almost didn't. But something made him pick up. The same irrational pull that had made him climb down into that basement. The voice this time wasn't Anna's, it was a child's voice, one he didn't recognize. Frightened. "Mister, help me," it whispered. It's dark here. Come get me." Danny still doesn't know who that was. He still hasn't called the number back. But every night at 13 minutes to 4, he lies awake, staring at the phone on his nightstand and waits. Because he knows, sooner or later it's going to ring again. And this time he doesn't know if he'll have the strength not to answer.